1. e4, the legendary Estonian grandmaster Paul Keres opens with the king's pawn, seeking an open battle against the world's most feared attacking player. 1. c5, Fischer, true to form, responds with his beloved Sicilian defense, immediately creating an imbalanced position and signaling his intention to fight for the full point. 2. n2, the Keres variation. A subtle and flexible system named after the man playing white, designed to avoid the main theoretical battlegrounds and steer the game into complex strategic waters. 2. d6, a solid and principled response from Fischer, reinforcing his central foothold and preparing a fianchetto setup to counter white's plans. 3. g3, Keres opts for a King's Indian attack setup, preparing to fianchetto his bishop and control the long diagonal, a plan known for its deep, long-term positional pressure. 3. g6, Fischer mirrors his opponent's plan, preparing his own fianchetto. The game is heading towards a double fianchetto setup, a tense and strategic battle of attrition. 4. bg2, the white bishop arrives on its most powerful square. From g2, it will exert immense pressure along the long diagonal and serve as a key piece in Keres' strategic plans. 4. bg7, the black bishop takes up its post, creating a symmetrical but highly tense situation. Both bishops now stare each other down across the board, ready for a long and complex fight. 5. Keres quickly castles his king to safety, connecting his rooks and completing his initial kingside development before embarking on central operations. 5. nc6, a solid developing move. Fischer brings his knight into the game, controlling the center and preparing to challenge white's setup with active piece play. 6. c3, a key move in this system. Keres prepares to build a strong pawn center with d4, aiming to seize a space advantage and restrict black's pieces. 6. e5, Fischer immediately clamps down on the d4 square, preventing white's central expansion. This creates a locked, closed pawn structure, leading to a game of complex maneuvering. 7. d3, having been prevented from playing his ideal d4, Keres settles for a more modest central pawn structure, preparing for a long, strategic battle of attrition. 7. ng7, Fischer develops his knight to its most flexible square in this closed structure, from where it supports the center and prepares to join the fight on either wing. 8. e3, Keres begins his queenside expansion, a typical plan in these closed positions. He aims to create a second front and challenge black's control of that sector of the board. 8. Fischer castles his king, completing his development. He is now ready to meet white's queenside ambitions while preparing his own central counterthrusts. 9. b4, the queenside pawn storm begins. Keres continues his plan, seeking to open lines and create weaknesses in the black position before Fischer can fully organize his counterplay. 9. b6, a solid and necessary response. Fischer creates a strong pawn barrier, blunting the force of white's attack and preparing to challenge him on the queenside. 10. f4, the battle ignites. Keres opens a new front on the kingside, a bold and aggressive decision that transforms the quiet strategic game into a sharp, tactical melee. 10. x4, Fischer accepts the challenge, releasing the central tension. This opens the f-file for his pieces but also gives white's pieces more room to operate. 11. gx-f4, the recapture strengthens white's center and opens the g-file for his rook, adding more firepower to his kingside attacking potential. The position is now incredibly sharp. 11. d5, Fischer strikes back in the center at the perfect moment. This classic pawn break undermines white's entire setup and unleashes the latent energy of black's pieces. 12. e5, Keres pushes his pawn forward, a committal decision that gains space and cramps black's position, but also creates a potential weakness that can be attacked. 12. bg4, a provocative move. Fischer develops his bishop with a pin, hoping to disrupt white's coordination and create tactical problems on the kingside. 13. h3, Keres is forced to deal with the annoying bishop, but this pawn move creates a long-term weakness around his king, a small but significant concession. 13. b2, Fischer trades his good bishop, a surprising decision. He correctly judges that this will activate his queen and open new lines for his attack. 14. c2, the recapture brings the white queen to a more active square. The position is incredibly complex, with chances for both sides in the coming struggle. 14. f6, the thematic king's Indian-style pawn break. Fischer sacrifices a pawn to shatter white's central control and open the position for his better-placed pieces. 15. b5, a powerful counter-thrust on the queenside. Carré kicks the black knight and seizes more space, creating his own threats and ignoring the kingside for the moment. 15. na5, the knight is forced to the edge of the board, but from this unusual square, it controls key points and prepares to cause trouble. 16. nd2, Carré brings his knight into the game, preparing to reinforce his center and meet the growing pressure from black's well-coordinated forces. 16. fx5, Fischer carries out his plan, capturing the pawn and ripping open the f-file for his rook, creating a direct and dangerous attack against the white king. 17. fx5, Carré is forced to resolve the central tension, but this brings his own king under more fire from black's active and well-placed pieces. 17. rxf1+, the exchange of rooks is forced. Fischer removes a key white defender and further clarifies the position to his advantage. 18. nxf1, the recapture brings the knight to a more active square, but white's king is now slightly more exposed, and his pieces are still somewhat uncoordinated. 18. nb3, the knight completes its incredible journey. It lands on b3, forking the rook and a pawn, a brilliant tactical shot that completely disrupts white's position. 19. rb1, the only move. The rook is forced to a passive square, a clear sign that Fischer's brilliant knight maneuver has been a resounding success. 19. nxc1, Fischer cashes in his chips, trading his heroic knight for the bishop. This simplifies the position and leaves him with a clear and lasting positional advantage. 20. rxc1, the recapture. White's pieces are now clumped on the queenside, while black controls the center and has dangerous attacking potential on the kingside. 20. qc7, a powerful centralizing move. Fischer's queen takes up a commanding post, from where it controls key squares and prepares to lead the final assault. 21. 1 rupee, Carré is forced into a passive defensive posture, desperately trying to untangle his pieces and hold his crumbling position together. 21. rd8, Fischer brings his final piece into the game, adding more pressure to the center and preparing for the decisive breakthrough on the d-file. 22. nh2, Carré begins a desperate attempt to bring his knight to the kingside for defense, but it is a slow and clumsy maneuver in a position that demands urgent action. 22. d4, the breakthrough. Fischer sacrifices a pawn to rip open the d-file and create a decisive attack against the uncoordinated white pieces. 23. cxd4, the forced recapture, but this only serves to open more lines for black's pieces, which are perfectly poised to invade and create havoc. 23. cxd4, black now has a passed d-pawn, a monster that will terrorize the white position for the rest of the game, tying down his pieces to its blockade. 24. nf3, the white knight finally reaches a useful square, but it is too late. The damage has been done, and black's attack is already overwhelming. 24. bh6, a brilliant and decisive bishop maneuver. Fischer's bishop takes up a killer post on h6, from where it creates unstoppable threats against the exposed white king. 25. qa2+, a desperate check from Carré, hoping to create some confusion, but Fischer has calculated everything to perfection and has a simple solution. 25. kh8, the king calmly sidesteps the check. It is perfectly safe, while its white counterpart is about to be caught in a deadly mating net. 26. qe6, Carré centralizes his queen, his last hope of creating some counterplay, but he is walking directly into a stunning tactical sequence from Fischer. 26. nd5, Fischer's knight leaps into the center, creating new threats and preparing for the final, decisive combination. The pressure is unbearable. 27. nh2, Carré desperately tries to bring his knight back for defense, but he has been completely outplayed and his position is collapsing on all fronts. 27. na3, the knight lands on its dream square. From this incredible outpost, it paralyzes the white position and is the centerpiece of a beautiful and decisive attack. 28. bc6, Carré's own bishop is a monster on c6, the only thing holding his position together. The battle is now between two incredible minor pieces. 28. rf8, Fischer brings his rook into the attack with decisive effect, creating new and unstoppable threats along the f-file. The end is very near. 29, Nf3, Carisse desperately shuffles his knight, but he is out of useful moves. He is just waiting for Fischer to deliver the final, crushing blow. 29, Bf4, a brilliant repositioning. The bishop eyes the weak white king and prepares for the final, game-ending tactical sequence. 30, Nxd4, a desperate sacrifice from Carisse, who hopes to create chaos in a completely lost position. However, Fischer has seen everything and has a brilliant refutation. 30, Bs5, the point of the combination. Fischer ignores the knight and captures the weak e5 pawn, a stunning in-between move that shatters white's defenses. 31, Nf3, Carisse is forced to retreat, his desperate sacrifice having failed completely. He is now defenseless against Fischer's coming onslaught of tactical blows. 31, Bd4, a brilliant tactical shot. This move pins the knight and forces a winning sequence for black. A beautiful display of tactical genius from Fischer. 32, Rex3, Carisse is forced to sacrifice the exchange to save his knight, a desperate decision in a completely lost position, but the only way to prolong the game. 32, Bs3+, Fischer continues the forcing sequence with perfect precision, capturing the rook and clarifying his decisive material and positional advantage. 33, C3, the recapture. White has avoided immediate mate, but the resulting queen endgame is completely hopeless for him. 33, Qg3+, the queen enters the attack with a decisive check. The white king is now completely exposed and caught in a deadly mating net with no escape. 34, Kf1, the king is forced to a passive square, where it is a helpless spectator to the destruction of its own kingdom. 34, Qxh3+, the harvest begins. The queen captures a pawn with check, further devastating the white king's defenses and adding to black's material advantage. 35, K1, the king continues its sad retreat, but there are no safe squares on the board. The black queen is a monster, and the end is near. 35, Qf5, Fischer's queen takes up its final, dominating post. From here, it controls the entire board and creates unstoppable mating threats. 36, D4, a final, desperate attempt to create a distraction with the passed pawn, but it is far too slow and completely irrelevant to the outcome. 36, Kg7, the black king becomes an active piece, a necessary step in converting the winning advantage in a queen endgame, moving to a safer square. 37, Kf2, Carisse's king is a lonely and tragic figure, a hunted animal with no place to hide from the relentless pursuit of the black queen. 37, H5, Fischer begins to create a passed pawn on the king side, adding another unstoppable threat to white's already hopeless position. 38, Kg3, the white king shuffles, but it is just delaying the inevitable. The game is long since over, and these are just the final moves. 38, Qg4+, the checks begin, forcing the white king into an even more passive and hopeless position. The execution of the win is flawless. 39, Kh2, the king is driven to the edge of the board, where it will soon be caught in a final, brutal mating net. 39, Rf4, Fischer's rook joins the attack, and the coordination of the queen and rook will be decisive. The pressure is unbearable. 40, Qe7+, another check. Carisse is just playing on, hoping for a miracle, but the position is completely lost against Fischer's perfect technique. 40, Kh6, the black king marches up the board, becoming a powerful attacking piece itself, a testament to Fischer's confidence and deep understanding. 41, Qe2, the white queen is forced into a passive defensive role, a clear sign of the complete bankruptcy of white's position. 41, Qf5, Fischer repositions his queen, patiently tightening the screws and giving Carisse absolutely no chance to create any counterplay. 42, Qe3, Carisse shuffles his queen, waiting for the inevitable. The psychological pressure of defending such a position against Fischer must have been immense. 42, G5, the passed pawn begins to march, the final nail in the coffin. This pawn will become the hero of the game and the decisive factor. 43, Kg2, the king can only watch in horror as the black pawns roll down the board, completely unopposed and unstoppable. 43. Rg4+, a brilliant check to drive the king away and clear the path for the pawns. Every move by Fischer is a lesson in precision. 44. Ekf2, the king is forced back, a helpless spectator to the destruction that is about to be unleashed on the other side of the board. 44. Rf4, the rook takes up its final, dominating post, from where it will support the pawns and deliver the final, crushing blow. 45. Kg2, hopeless shuffling from Carisse, who can only wait for Fischer to demonstrate the forced win that he has surely calculated. 45. Qc2+, more checks to control the position and drive the white king into a corner. Fischer is playing with the precision of a machine. 46. Kh1, the king is trapped in the corner of the board, a very dangerous place to be when facing an enemy queen and rook. 47. Qb1+, and again. Fischer is likely enjoying himself, torturing the white king with a series of checks before delivering the coup de grace. 47. Kh2, the king is forced back and forth, a tragic dance of death that is leading to an inevitable checkmate. 48. Qa2+, Fischer is simply demonstrating his complete and utter domination of the position, giving Carisse no chance to breathe. 48. Kh3, the king tries to escape the corner, but there is no safety to be found anywhere on the board against the power of the black queen. 49. Qf7, the queen shifts its angle of attack, preparing the final assault and tightening the suffocating net around the white king. 49. Kh2, the king is forced to retreat once again. It is completely paralyzed, unable to move without being checkmated. 50. Qf6, a new angle of attack. The queen is a versatile and deadly weapon in Fischer's hands, probing for the final weakness. 50. Kg2, the king continues to shuffle, a sad sight. The game is long over, and these are just the final throws of a lost position. 51. Kg7, the black king becomes a monster. It marches up the board, a powerful attacking piece that will personally deliver the final blow. 51. Kg3, the white king is helpless. It can only watch as its black counterpart becomes the hero of the game. 52. H4+, a powerful pawn push with check, creating more weaknesses and driving the white king into an even more desperate situation. 52. Kg2, the king is suffocated by its own pawns, unable to move, a classic theme in mating attacks. 53. Rg4+, the rook joins in with check, a brutal and decisive blow that forces the end of the game. 53. Kh1, trapped. The king has no squares and is about to be checkmated in a beautiful and systematic fashion. 54. Rg3, a beautiful quiet move, preparing the final pawn push and demonstrating Fischer's complete control. He is not just winning, he is winning with style. 54. Qe4, a desperate attempt to block the pawns and create some counter-threats, but it is a futile gesture against Fischer's perfect calculation. 55. G4, the pawn rolls forward, and its advance is unstoppable. It will become a new queen, and the game will be over. 55. Nh2, the knight returns to the board, but it is a ghost from the past, a helpless spectator to the final act of this chess tragedy. 56. Qg5, the queen prepares the final invasion, coordinating perfectly with the pawns and the rook for the final, brutal checkmate. 56. Nf1, the knight is a sad defender, a lonely warrior trying to hold back the tide of an entire ocean. 57. Rh3+, a crushing rook check that forces the white king into a corner, where it will be subjected to the final, merciless blow. 57. Kg1, the king has no squares. It is completely trapped, and the end is a matter of a few simple, forceful moves. 58. Rxa3, the rook swings over to the queenside, a final, beautiful maneuver that creates new threats and demonstrates the complete and utter helplessness of white's position. 58. D5, the desperate passed pawn, white's only hope, makes a final, futile push, but it is far too slow to make a difference. 59. G3, the final pawn push. It is unstoppable and will lead to a new queen, sealing the victory in spectacular fashion. 59. Bd7, the bishop makes a desperate attempt to defend, but it is a hopeless task against the might of the black army. 60. Ra1, the rook dominates the entire board, a beautiful and powerful piece that has played a key role in this incredible game. 60, bf5, the bishop tries to create a fortress, but it is a fortress made of sand, about to be washed away by the tide of Fischer's attack. 61, qf6, the queen prepares the final blow, a beautiful and quiet move that sets up an unstoppable mating net. 61, qf4, a desperate counterattack, but it is a futile gesture. Fischer has calculated everything to the end. 62, 1 rupee, the rook shifts again, a final, beautiful touch in a game full of brilliant maneuvers. It is preparing to meet any last-ditch threats. 62, d6, the d-pawn is the only hope, but it is a false hope. The game is being decided on the other side of the board. 63, re5, the rook controls everything, a beautiful and powerful piece that is the symbol of Fischer's complete and utter domination. 63, qg4+, a final desperate check. It is a sign of resignation, a final cry of defiance before the end. 64, ekf8, the king sidesteps contemptuously. It is completely safe and is about to witness the final, beautiful checkmate. 64, d7, the pawn is one step away from queening, but it is a hollow and meaningless achievement. The white king is about to be checkmated. 65, rd5, the rook prepares the final blockade, a beautiful and quiet move that demonstrates Fischer's complete control over the entire board. 65, kg2, hopeless shuffling from Carisse, who is just waiting for the inevitable. He has been completely outplayed by the young American genius. 66, bxd7, Carisse sacrifices his bishop for the pawn, his last desperate hope to try and muddy the waters and save a completely lost position. 66, qf2+, the devastating check that begins the final, forced mating sequence. The white king is completely trapped and has no escape. 67, kh3, the king is forced into the mating net. It is a tragic figure, a lonely monarch about to be overthrown in a brutal and beautiful fashion. 67, qxf1+, the queen captures with check, and the material advantage for black is now overwhelming. The rest is a simple execution of the checkmate. 68, kxh4, the king is drawn out into the open, a classic theme in mating combinations. It is now a helpless target for the black queen. 68, g2, the pawn is unstoppable. It will become a new queen, and the game will be over. The coordination of black's forces is perfect. 69, qb4+, a desperate check from Carisse, the last gasp of a dying position. He is just delaying the inevitable for a few moves. 69, kf7, the king is perfectly safe. It easily sidesteps the check and prepares to witness the coronation of its pawn. 70, qb3+, more desperate checks, but Fischer's king has an easy path to safety, while the white king is hopelessly exposed and about to be checkmated. 70, kg7, the king finds a safe haven, away from any annoying checks, and the end is now a matter of a few simple, forceful moves. 71, qg3+, the final checks of the game. Carisse is just playing on, but the position is completely lost, and he is about to be checkmated. 71, kh7, the king is perfectly safe. It is a spectator to the final, beautiful act of this chess tragedy. 72, qe5, a desperate attempt to create a stalemate net, but Fischer will not be tricked. He has calculated everything to the end. 72, qh1+, the check that breaks the defense. This move forces the white bishop to block, and then the final, brilliant sacrifice will end the game. 73, bh3, the bishop is forced to block, but this is the end. It is a futile gesture against the coming storm. 73, qxh3+, the brilliant and beautiful queen sacrifice. Fischer gives up his queen to eliminate the last defender and ensure that his pawn will queen with check. 74, kxh3, the forced recapture. The white king is now a lonely monarch, about to be overthrown by a new and powerful queen. 74, g1 equals q, promotion. Fischer now has a new queen, and the win is trivial. The rest is a simple matter of checkmating the helpless white king. 75, qe7+, Carisse starts a final, desperate check sequence, his last hope to try and save the game by forcing a perpetual check. 75, kh8, the king is perfectly safe. Fischer has calculated everything and knows that the checks will soon run out. 76, qf8 plus, the checks continue, but they are a sign of complete desperation. The black king cannot be caught, and the white king is helpless. 77, qf7 plus, the final check of this incredible, epic battle. Since the white king is also exposed, black cannot force a win and must accept the draw. A spectacular and fitting end. 1/2-1/2 The game is a draw.